welcome everybody to Meet the Authors for the MBSE book in INCOSE series of Don't Panics. Whilst the book has been published for a while, the series continues to grow, and this is a further opportunity then for those interested in this particular book to have a conversation with John Holt and Simon Perry, the authors of that book, and find out more behind what went into the production of it. Before we hand over to John and Simon to talk more about that, or quiz them gently about the activities, I'd just like to introduce you all to John and Simon a little. Many of you may know them perhaps quite well. For myself, I probably first came across John almost 2 decades ago.
Must be.
When shocking, isn't it? Whilst I was on a master's course in systems engineering run by UCL at the time, and it was around about the time when John launched his first book around the topic of model-based systems engineering. UML.
That was 2001, the pink one. Yeah.
So, of course, since then, both John and Simon have gone on to publish several books, some together, some separately or with other authors, and of course, a large number of conference papers. I probably first met Simon, however, when Simon and John were conducting systems engineering training on UML, SysML, model-based systems engineering, something again that both of them are very well known for. At that stage, it was to ask them to assist me in growing the capacity of Sula Systems, a business that I, by that stage, had a lot to do with growing. So I've known John and Simon both for well over a decade.
That was a long time ago, the Sula stuff was. Yeah. Crikey, you're talking about a lifetime ago, it feels.
Quite right.
I was young then and not grey-haired. And
well, you were young.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. What's that? It's called hair, John?
So both John and Simon, well established as thought leaders in model-based systems engineering, both in terms of publications, conference proceedings, training, and indeed education. Because one of the other things that I first heard from John was about his approach to teaching systems engineering to undergraduates at Swansea University. And this brings me to the second main thing that both John and Simon are well known for, and that's about humour and fun in systems engineering. Because what John was telling us about in those days when he was talking to us on the master's course at UCL, he was telling us about how he was using Jurassic Park, of all things, as a kind of educational training aid for undergraduates. Meanwhile, Alan Smith at UCL was using Apollo 13, which is much more techie and didn't have quite as much laughs in it, perhaps, in the approach.
I used to say, for your homework, go and watch Jurassic Park. People would still complain. Your homework is to go watch a really good film. How can you possibly complain about
exactly that? What's more, John followed the theme by inventing the Brontosaurus of complexity, which I still think is one of the greatest training aids for systems engineering I've come across. So dust off the Brontosaurus, John, and bring it back into life.
That's what a euphemism.
Indeed. So fun and humour in systems engineering. That also comes through with some of the other sorts of things over the years, with the way in which John has done escapology and magic tricks as a way of presenting certain aspects of systems engineering, etc. And the other thing, of course, both of them are very well known for, is the stylish wearing of outlandish headgear at conferences. On that note, then, I think we should move on to the topic of the day, that being the Don't Panic MBSE book. And if I could just start by asking the pair of you, what inspired you to author that book and launch it through INCOSE UK?
Well, I think the start point is we've written many books between us, and we wrote one that is now just referred to as the Monster. So, sorry, do you want to describe the Monster?
Well, I shall. The Monster's our big systems engineering book, And that's why we call it the monster, because when
it weighs more than a fat baby, basically.
Yeah, and when we first got it, although intellectually we knew we'd written a nearly 1,000-page book, it's only when you open the box for the first time and we went, oh my God, we've created a monster. So we talk about this as the monster there, which is probably not a good book for beginners if you just want to wade through. I think
I think that was it, wasn't it? We had so many people on courses saying, yeah, we really like this book, but I need something to show my manager. And if you put the monster in front of somebody who's not, a systems engineer, they're going to soil themselves essentially and run a mile. And that was the problem that we had. So what so basically, Si, we were chatting, weren't we? And it was what we really need is something that's going to sort of stop people panicking when they read it. So and then obviously there was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference with the don't panic. And I think that was kind of how it was born, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Like you say, we started to have a lot of people saying, who came on training courses, saying things like, "Oh, you couldn't come and do a presentation for our managers," and I think it grew out of that as well, didn't it, John? That we'd started doing presentations that we could go, and give to more senior people, and we realised actually, there's a potential market for the sort of, making this more widely available for people.
And at the time, I've been technical director for a while, and we dipped our toe in the water of publishing books with Think Engineer, which was the children's book. And that was the first formal book with a proper ISBN number, a proper professionally bound book and everything that we did. And then when we did that, and that was well received.
We did through INCOSE, John, I must say. Not that
through INCOSE UK,
yeah.
Sorry, so that was the first book that INCOSE UK has published. Sorry, I should have. But then again, and Simon and I were talking, and we go, well, who do we go through for this idea of a don't panic guide? And I think it might even have been you, Simon, just said, look, we've already done one for INCOSE UK. Why don't we do that? Because one of the problems that you have with publishers is, and they're all lovely, obviously, we do love them. My children thank them for their Christmas presents every year when the royalties come through. But one of the problems that you have is you have surprisingly little control over the book itself, particularly once it's published. And this is something that we were both very frustrated about, wasn't it, Si?
Yeah, well, I mean, once it's published, you've got zero control, basically. It's not surprisingly little, it's zero. Yeah.
And imagine, when you write a report at work that might be 20 pages long, and then it goes out, and then you open it up in the meeting, and immediately you spot a typo, and you go, oh. But imagine that with a 1,000-page book. Okay, so but the problem that we'd have with that, so that's published with the IET, for example, they'll only do a new print every a formal new version, like every 5 or 6 years. So if you spot just a simple typo in it, it's there for good. And so one of the things that we've done, we changed the whole printing model away from the traditional print the book, store them in a warehouse, sell them, and then print more. So we changed it to more of a sort of modern print on demand style. And that gives us really good control, because if we spot a typo in one of the books and someone tells us, or if I spot one of the authors does, we can just tell Simon as the series editor, he can correct it, update the PDF, and all subsequent prints then are actually updated.
Well, in fact, I've done that. See, we've got Richard on the line. I've actually done that. I think it was this week. Yeah, this week for Richard. Paul's book had got the old web address on the back, and some of the other books had tweaks and changes and things. And I spent a couple of hours going through them all, sending the PDFs of the contents and the covers to Richard. So the next print run, will be bang up to date. In fact, I've been speaking to James about his book today, and there's a couple of things he spotted that he wants changing. And I said, well,
it's nice, for example, if a new ISO standard comes out and supersedes another one, which is referenced in the book, so actually we can guarantee that the books are always as up to date as the authors want them to be. And so creatively, it gave us a lot more control. And so we did the first one as an experiment. And again, we had to go to council and say, look, this is our idea and this is what we'd like to do. And so it went through our review process. So again, all of the books go through a review process. They go to 3 independent reviewers. In this case, it was kind of difficult because I was the technical director. So it had to go to the reviewers were what we refer to as the 3 Ps. So the president, the immediate past president, and the president-elect. So they were the reviewers for it. And they all said it was a good idea. It was very well received, and we'd always had in mind, didn't we, Si, this would make a great series.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first one was very well received, and when we launched it at the ASEC a few years ago at Warwick, and we said, you know, if anybody's got any ideas, straight away Paul Davis was on us like a Yorkshire Terrier on a ferret. He was and straight away said, yeah, I'll write one. And so we got 4 at the moment, 4 in the pipeline. But it's proven to be a really good series, and so now Simon's the series editor, and so when you look at the books, and I can say this because I'm not involved with the covers, because they look brilliant and they look great on the shelf, and they've all got the same sort, and that's down to Simon and as the series editor, who's got the style.
Well, and my wife, who's the graphic artist as well. I have to say. Yeah.
But it's a really lovely. They've got a distinctive look, and I think that was one of the things you were saying, was it's like when you see it, even at a distance on someone's desk, you want people to recognise it as an INCOSE UK Don't Panic guide. So that they've all got the same kind of look and feel about it, and I think that's a very important part of the books. So when you see the 4 now kind of lined up with the spines on the shelf, they do look really nice, and I think that can't be. It's obviously not why people buy them, but it does actually make a difference when the books look nice and they look like they're part of the same set, and so on. So aesthetically, they look great. And the other series that we're working on at the moment as well is going to have a similar sort of idea of have a same sort of look and feel.
Well, that's part of the overall concept, really, John, isn't it? It needs to be enticing and easy to engage with. Practical help that's readily accessible across a range of related topics that are useful to both practitioners of various aspects of systems engineering and can also serve as a tool to communicate with those that need to know something more about the profession and how we do our stuff, but yeah, is not off-putting to engage with, is actually fairly enticing to engage with. That's crucial to the series.
Well, we have, so for example, if you want to know about a particular aspect of systems engineering now, you were to go to INCOSE UK, we've got the Z guides, which are the 1 sheet of A4 folded over apparently like a letter Z, if you can manage to do the folding correctly. But that's like a 1 page, and they're good and they serve a purpose to get you interested. But then you go on Amazon or something, or Google it, and look at a book on the subject, and you're faced with, you know, a 400, 500 or even 1,000 page book, and it is that, well, no, we just want to know a little bit. There's something we can read in a couple of hours that will give us a nice overview, and it will tell us, you know, is it for us and where to go next. And I think that's what we're aiming for, wasn't it, Si? Is there an obvious gap there?
Yeah.
Let's say we know, because people had said to us, yeah, we like the big book, but actually we prefer, or, you know, to get people into it, we can't use this big, which was quite upsetting for us at the time. But we just read a 1,000-page book, and as people say, well, we would have preferred it if it was 945 pages shorter. So
yeah,
but yeah, so I think that was definitely the thing, wasn't it? Try and get new people interested, and also, and I think it works really well with INCOSE UK, because we want people, if you think of systems engineering, we want you to go to INCOSE UK, and what we want is there to be an offering there, an immediate offering that says, yeah, if you want to know about this subject, it's not expensive, it's 15 quid for the hard copy or whatever, and people are prepared to take a punt on that. If it's 55 pages in total, aren't they? I think so.
Yeah, something like that. Around about, some are slightly longer, but yeah.
If it's about 50 pages, it's 15. People will take a punt on that, and it's a nice introductory, safe, sort of soft offering, if you like. And that's what we're going for. And I think we've managed with the others to hit that same level as well. And I think the challenge that we've had from all of the authors have said so far is it's actually easier to write a 400-page book than it is to write a 50-page book on a particular subject. Because it's what, now bear in mind, we've gone from a 1,000-page book to, can we condense that same, you know, the same ideas into 50? I mean, we're fortunate because Simon and I, we've written a lot of books. We've written 17 books between us anyway, so we're used to writing. So that side of things we found far easier. So for example, to be perfectly honest, we wrote the book between us in under 2 weeks. So I did a first draft in about 3 or 4 days. Simon did about another 3 or 4 days on it, and then we did a couple of days editing. But writing comes very easy for us because it's what we're used to doing. But then we got very different styles. So, for example, I said I wrote the first draft, and because when I write, there's no buffer between what's in my head and what, apart from my dyslexia, and what appears on the screen. So it just kind of pours out, and I type as I'm thinking, and then go back and correct it. Whereas Simon, you're the opposite, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm very much. I mean, the difference is from me then to edit it, because I generally do the, I do the editing for our own books. A lot of the editing for our own books is, John, you sort of do a stream of consciousness, which might need 2 or 3 iterations round till it's perfect, and you write very quickly. I write quite slowly, but probably the only thing you'll find in my stuff might be some typos, or we need to add a little bit of stuff. And actually, that was interesting for me as well. That totally different way of working. It's really quite interesting, as 2 authors that do approach things in a very, very different way.
But bizarrely, it works really well, doesn't it? They actually complement one another, because it's the, where do you start? And I'm more, there it is. But yeah, it works very, very well together. And we found that from, when was the first book we published? 2006, 2005, the
first one together. I'm not sure. My camera's just died. I don't know what's
so I think it's about 2005. But it's and it's interesting, because on all the Meet the Authors, we always ask the authors, what's your writing style? It's interesting seeing the different styles that people have, because some people do a lot of, they'll start with the references. Now, it also should be said, and this is sort of joking aside, that Simon and I, we do model things as well. So when we sit down to write a book, the first thing that we do is we sit down and we create a model of the structure of the book and what the content's going to be, and so on. And that was interesting. So on the cover of this Don't Panic book, we put on, almost for a joke, was it something like conceived, modelled and written by... And since then, the authors are kind of like that. And they've all put their own little
they've all got
thing on, haven't they?
Yeah, so we've got conceived, architected and written by on Mike and Tim's book, the yellow book. We've got conceived, illustrated and written by on Paul's book, the blue book, and conceived, modelled and described from the viewpoints of, which I think was very clever, on James and Aurelius's book, the red book.
But yeah, so different styles, but different people write in different ways and at different speeds and so on. But I think it's been very interesting when we've hosted the others, isn't it, Si? Seeing what other people, because you kind of assume that everybody writes in the same way until you start writing with someone, and then you realise, I say, Simon, we're kind of in many ways at opposite ends of the spectrum, the writing spectrum.
Many spectrums, John. The weight, the height, the hair, the writing.
But it does work. It does work well together, and it's been well received. And we've also last week, it's available in ebook now. So and they're selling. I spoke to Emma Jane this morning, and again they're selling across the world, which is what we want. So in terms of the the dissemination of these books, of the information in them, and the way they're being bought, the good news is they were being bought around the world anyway because of postage charges, and particularly, I don't want to bring the subject up, but after Brexit, people will pay more in postage and customs fees than they were for the book, and that's not an exaggeration. So the ebooks is going to help us with that enormously, and they're going to be available on Amazon in the next few weeks as well. So that should open up a far wider audience. But we were surprised. They're going all over the world. If you look at where they're going to geographically, which is very good news for promoting Cozy UK as well. So it really is making us stand out amongst the other chapters.
Right. Thank you. That's all very fascinating insights into the process you've gone through in creating it. Whilst I could inject some more questions, I'm very aware that we've got a good dozen people that have joined the call to meet you both, and I think that must involve also having the opportunity to throw some questions in your direction, John and Simon. So if you'll allow me to do so, if I can throw the floor open, questions please.
Okay, we take silence as consent that everybody loves the books. So and we'll be buying multiple copies. So
I haven't seen a chat facility on here that I can access.
I'm sure there is. Why we can't just all use Teams, I don't know.
Yeah, there it seems easy. But,
yeah, we've been battling with Google Hangouts this week with a customer. That's it's not quite as bad as WebEx, but.
I see a hand up from Heinz. So Heinz, over to you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, John, you mentioned something. There's another series coming up, or you're working on another series besides the Don't Panic?
Yeah, so we got. So Simon, do you want to say a few words as you've got it there in front of you?
Yeah, there's another series called Advanced Applications in Systems Engineering. And as the series title suggests, they're meant to be, more in depth. So around about 200 pages. This one's just over 250 pages. We've only got one out at the moment, which is one that John and I have done on an approach that we have for understanding your sort of requirements and needs and what you need to do to introduce MBSE into an organization. But yeah, we've certainly got one, I think.
We got a proposal in at the moment, haven't we?
We got one proposal in, I think, at the moment for this. But the idea for this series is it is a more in-depth series, and it's looking at a particular topic that you can apply systems engineering to. So again, we're hoping that other people are going to my filter keeps blurring it. Are going to submit
so it's more the panic guide, not the Don't Panic one.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I mean, yes. It's red as well.
Yeah, but again, the idea is again, this will be a series. So we haven't got a second cover yet, so we're not quite sure what we're going to vary on this. Whether we vary the sort of flashes at the top and the bottom here, or whether we vary the whole cover, we don't know yet. But again, they'll all have the same look and feel to them, and internally they also have the sort of same look and feel to the Don't Panic books again. And that was a decision that sort of I made as I'm the series editor of this one as well. Is that even though one's a Don't Panic and one's an Advanced Applications, when you open the book, the typeface that's been used for the headers and the footers and the bodies and the way it's laid out is actually the same across both series. So again, it's you get that feel that you're looking at an INCOSE UK book. It's not just another random book from some random publisher.
Yeah. Is it going to be PDF as well, or is it hard?
Yeah.
That's available as ebook as well at the moment.
Yeah, that's already available. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
And I think what's the mechanism? So I think the PDFs are watermarked for a particular whoever buys them, aren't they?
I think they are. Yeah. Yes, they are. Yeah, which is the same as what organisations like ISO do for standards. If you buy a standard,
it's the same. We adopted I say adopted, stole the way that they did it basically, and used it for ourselves. Yeah. But when we set off, when we launched the first Don't Panic guide. And because we'd already published Think Engineer, and then when we did the Don't Panic, and Simon and I were saying, well, this could turn into a series, and at the time, so this was what, 4 years ago. So when did we? Was it 2017?
Crikey! I'll tell you.
Did this 2017?
I'll tell you in a minute, John. I should just go onto our website and have a look. Yeah.
But
2017, yeah.
So one of the things we said at the time, we said, well, in 5 years' time, we'd like to be the premier systems engineering publisher in the UK. And we've already surpassed that quite easily. We've got eight formal books that INCOSE UK published at the moment. And I've got no evidence for this at the moment. I suspect we're pretty much the top one in Europe at the moment. But certainly by the time the next slew of 4 Don't Panics come out, in terms of the number of books, we will definitely be one of the world leaders in publishing books relating to systems engineering. Yeah. And that was kind of part of the vision, wasn't it, Si? That's where we wanted to be, is we wanted people to come along. And as I said, you want to know about systems engineering, go to INCOSE UK, and buy some of these books.
Yeah,
and
but also have an easily accessible platform for INCOSE members to publish, because you know, for a lot, you know, there are a lot of people out there that have got good ideas. You know, there may well be people on this call that think, well, you know, maybe I could write a book. Well, I would encourage you, if you've got an idea, put a proposal in. You know, but for a lot of people, the thought of writing a book, it's quite a daunting thing. You know, how do you go about it? How do you get it published? You know, and that's the great thing, that, you know, this is open to the whole INCOSE UK, you know, membership. Any member can put a proposal in for, you know, for a Don't Panic guide or a advanced applications book, and that's really fantastic.
Well, it was interesting what Mike Wilkinson and Tim Rabbit said, because they said they've been thinking about writing a book for quite a few years, and they'd always been they'd had a lot of trepidation about it. But when the INCOSE UK thing came on, and basically when they said, because they knew Simon and they knew me and we were involved, they were able to actually, they felt that they could communicate with us, and particularly with Simon as a series editor. And I know they had a number of meetings with you along the way, and there was a lot of feedback, because it's one of the things that we found, and one of the things we wanted to change about the publishing model was this very distant sort of, you know, you write, that's it, and then you send in your proposal, you know, you send in your submission, gets edited, it comes back, and we wanted it to be a bit more sort of user friendly and a bit more sort of welcoming. So yes, there is there's a variation on our standard review process that you go through to get in, so there is rigor behind them. But once you got through the review process and it's been agreed, then actually it's you know, Simon puts in quite a lot of effort. In fact, you've had a meeting this week, I think you said, didn't you, with some of the people on some of the new books that are being written? Yeah. Because we had, with a book being written on architecture frameworks and on architecting, the potential for you know, conflicting opinions on that was quite strong. So Simon managed to put together a number of sort of calls. I wouldn't go as far as calling them workshops, but certainly calls between the authors and Simon, where they could talk to one another and say, this is what we're putting in, you know, we'd like you to put a reference to it. And they've come out really well, haven't they, I think, Si, to be fair. And I think it's a sort of, you know, all credit to you as to making those books not only good individually, but actually they work very well together. I mean,
it is. I mean, and hopefully the same will be the case for the testing books, because they're all looking at slightly different aspects, and across the 3 books, effectively, you've got a very good 150-page book on different aspects of testing, you know, if you want to think of it that way. So, yeah, and I mean, of course, it's, you know, with every new proposal, the series editor's job gets, you know, exponentially more difficult, because the number of combinations of books that have to agree with each other goes up every time. But it you know, it is fantastic, and I mean, I really do, you know, want to encourage people, and I think this is something that, again, at ASEC this year, we really need to make clear to people that anybody can put in a proposal, because you know, there has to be other people out there with ideas for things, you know, and you know, get your proposal in. If you've got an idea, if you think you can write a 50-page Don't Panic guide, you know, put a proposal in, and let's get you added to the list, because, you know, I want as many people in INCOSE UK as possible to be writing these things, you know. As long as they don't do topics we're going to do, John, you know, of course.
That's right. Stay clear of MBSE, you'll be fine. And in fact, we're planning to have at the ASEC this year, which is going to be in Leeds in the last week of November. I think we've actually got all the authors, all the current authors are going to be there. So I think we're planning to have sort of over one of the lunch times a sort of meet the authors in the flesh session, where you can get books signed, or just
it's only £20 a signature and a photo, John. It's like you know, like at a proper con.
So you touched on some really interesting things in that section about stakeholder engagement during the life cycle of developing a text on systems engineering of one form or another. It's kind of spooky, that, isn't it? That we find that's actually the systems practices that we use in the real world systems engineering jobs that we do. We're actually finding that we're naturally attuned to doing much the same thing when it comes to applying our systems knowledge to authoring books, and not only in singular books in that sort of way, but we're also looking for that coherence between the set of books, joined up thinking applied to the set of books, and a light touch way of trying to engineer the joins between them, whilst there won't necessarily be, kind of perfect joins in every respect, but also that slight blurriness of boundaries and slight inconsistency and variety is also appropriately a sort of a natural sort of tension point, and a sign that one thing doesn't always fit all circumstances. So all of those things are echoes of the wider systems engineering world. But yeah, interesting to see those at play in the authorship of systems engineering texts and series.
And that's something that we often say is we should be. I mean, one of the, I think a very good phrase, but a very unpleasant phrase that Simon and I learned from an American guy quite a few years ago is eating your own dog food. Which is not, it's not a nice mental image, but it's a good, and it is that thing. Well, yeah, we're systems engineers. We should be, and again, Simon and I have always, one of the first things we thought alike about is we treat pretty much everything we do as a systems project. Yeah. So it is literally, as you say, Chris. Okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? Who are the stakeholders? Yeah. How do we keep them happy? And so, as I said, when we said we'd modelled the book, that's literally one of the things we do. Is those activities. Yeah. You know, who are the stakeholders? What do we want them to, you know, how do we want them to react to this?
But we like you say, John, we've always done that. We do it for everything, you know, and in fact, one of the books, the Foundations book, the book published by the IET, certainly my chapters in that entire chapters were generated out of a SysML model. I didn't write any words in Word. All of the diagrams, all of the words around them, and the whole generation of about 5 or 6 chapters all came out of a SysML model. So yeah, but and that's an important point, and that's something we talk about a lot, you know, with when we do training courses and mentoring with people, that I personally find frustrating is that an organization might be very good at using systems engineering externally, but they don't think about applying the practice to themselves about how you do your own systems engineering. And when you start to apply systems engineering to yourself and to your organization, you know, that's when you really do start sort of getting benefits. It's, you know, it becomes more ingrained, you know, when
in fact, that's what the Red Book, that's what Trinity's all about, basically, isn't it, Si?
Yeah.
It's, you know, if you want to introduce MBSE into your organization, treat it like a system. You know, what are your expectations? Who are the stakeholders? Yeah. What benefits are they going to get? How are you going to demonstrate that you've done that at the end? And that's always been our philosophy, isn't it, in whatever we do? Yeah. And it's we're often surprised at people who we meet who are systems engineers who don't treat things like
I'm eternally surprised, John, but to the extent I'm no longer surprised. It's become the norm. Yeah, but yeah, you know, we go, oh, but we have people go, oh, I never thought about doing that. You know, oh, well, okay. Yeah. Why? You know. No.
But again, and I think that's one of the things we try and get across in the Don't Panic guides, isn't it? Is to open people's eyes to do it. And I think what happens is, particularly if people who have worked in a particular industry on a particular discipline for many years, you get into that sort of blinkered sort of approach, and you kind of forget that there's a bigger world out there and that people will use the same techniques. I know, Chris, you would have seen this. I know you work in all different sectors, but you know, everybody thinks they're unique. And yes, there's variations on things, but fundamentally, you know, a lot of people have a very similar problem. But it's the way that they go about it, and the benefits they get from applying such an approach will be, as we would say in modeling terms, context dependent. You know, it depends on who they are and how they look at the system, the different benefits they're going to get. And I think that it's almost like a driver for the Don't Panics, isn't it, Si?
It is.
Getting people to open their eyes, because I think particularly if you've worked in the same company or the same industry for a long time, it is easy to forget that there's a bigger world out there, and that people might use the same techniques in different ways or for different purposes. And so I think all of the books have been so far very good at doing that, and certainly reading some of them, it sort of opened my eyes and got me to think about a sort of either a broader area or some applications that I maybe hadn't thought of before. So yeah, that's kind of what we're aiming at there.
Yeah.
Just wondering whether we have any other questions on people's minds that they'd like to pitch in, either just pipe up or show a hand on the on the Zoom tool if there's a conversation going on that when you have your thought about what you'd like to ask, so we know you're waiting.
I mean, in terms of if we take a step back and think about INCOSE UK now and how we've evolved over the last sort of 5+ years, and look at the services that we offer now. We've got the publications, we've got the route to becoming chartered that's in place now. We're now recognised by the as a professional body, and so on. And one of the other things that's related to the books as well is the technical services and the endorsed training provider scheme. And this is very good because it allows people. So Simon and I work for an organisation, Scarecrow, who provide training, but we're able to now do this under the auspices of INCOSE UK, because there's three companies that are recognised as Synthesis, Hughes, Burge and Walsh, and Scarecrow have gone through the process of becoming accredited. But that's really good from INCOSE UK's point of view, because it gives us another technical service that we can put out there. But also it's going we're going international with that as well, and it allows us to tie the books in. So again, something that Simon and I learned very early on is if you're offering something like a training service or something similar, and then you can back that up and say, look, there's a published book that supports this, and by the way, it's written by the people giving the training course. Yeah. That lends a hell of a lot of weight to the sort of quality and the provenance of the information that you're trying to convey to people. And so that's another thing we're trying to do, is to tie these books into our other offerings, our technical services, and it gives us a really nice kind of package then that we can offer. And I think, in fact, Chris and I were chatting before we started the call about, although it's been an unprecedented 18 months we've just all gone through, there are things that are going to come out of the whole COVID pandemic as positives if we look for what they've put. And I think one of the things is this idea, and I'm as guilty as anybody else, previously saying you can't do training online, that would never work. And now we've been forced to change the way we do things. We've had to look at new technologies, new techniques for doing these things. And now it's becoming the service. But now we look at that and say, well, actually, in INCOSE UK, we can now offer our books, our services across the world. And so again, ebooks now makes it far more feasible to disseminate this information than posting off individual copies of a book that, as I say, is going to more than double the cost because of the postage and the customs and so on. So as INCOSE UK, that's one of the things that we're constantly working on, is join. And it comes back to what you were saying, Chris. It's joining up these things, isn't it, and making sure that not only what we offer as a professional body is consistent, but we've got this joined up approach. Yes, we can use the technical services endorsed to promote the book, and vice versa, and it becomes a very good sort of rounded package then that we can offer to our members, and also in the case of things like training and the books, to non-members as well. So hopefully it will bring more people into the fold and increase our membership, increase INCOSE Global's membership. So so that's where we're going in terms of INCOSE UK. And we've had some really good positive feedback from the other INCOSE chapters as well, for many of the other INCOSE chapters, about what we've done, particularly in terms of the publishing and the books and so on. We've had some very good feedback about that. In fact, we've had one major publisher that wanted to publish the books on our behalf, and we've had to very politely, I won't tell you what Simon said we should tell them to do, but we've had to very politely decline their kind offer. But,
well, it's good that we've got that under good control locally to INCOSE UK. Really, it enables us to be more fleet of foot on it, and as you say, maintain the hard copy versions per each small print run. Just keeps the standard as high as it can be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wondered, did you have any insight on the scale that we've reached across the series now? Any idea on sort of numbers of books that have been bought, both hard copy and electronic, across the Don't Panic series in particular?
Well, for the Don't Panics, it's in terms of the sales. Now, bear in mind, ours came out, 2017. Paul's was out 2019. And then the other two came out the back end of last year because we launched them at the ASEC.
So since the pandemic,
but it's in the thousands. I don't think we're over 10,000 yet, but it's certainly in the thousands of numbers that we've sold across the series. In terms of the ebooks, I can tell you the answer is 6 because we only launched the service a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so very early days. Yes.
So we know, but of those, half of them have gone abroad, and that's kind of what we're aiming at on that. So yeah. And what's happening, which is really interesting, is people will go to the website to buy one. So, for example, someone might say, I'm interested in architecture frameworks. They'll go to buying James and Aurelius's books, and they'll come away buying the set of 4. And that's really interesting. And we've had this, and something that we didn't think would happen. But when you think back, you think, well, that's kind of nice and kind of obvious. And the Secretariat have been saying, people don't go to the website. They might go with the intention of buying a single book. But they said people never go and actually just buy a single book. They go and actually end up buying 4 or 5 books, which is really good because it's and so the series is sort of promoting the other books in the series as well. And I think that's really good. And as I said, because of the look and feel of them, they look nice on the shelf. And we know that we're getting repeat customers that will. I say there's only 4, but basically, when the last 2 came out pretty much at the same time, we know there are a whole load of people that just bought it. We suspect some of them just to have the set, you know, so it's a nice set. There's a lot of good knowledge in it.
We'll have to do a collector's card album, John. They get a sticker for
like a Panini.
Panini. Yeah.
They'll get a free coffee if they've got all 6 by the time you get to 6.
I mean, the other good thing as well, again, through doing it through INCOSE, and not just for our book, for some of the other ones as well, is, you know, we've actually done branded copies for certain organizations where they have their logo on there as well as the standard cover, you know. And
we've done that with the Think Engineer books, the STEM outreach books for sort of Key Stage 2 sort of age group. So that was a big campaign, particularly in Year of Engineering, wasn't it? Yeah. But are you saying, Simon, that that's also happened with some of the Don't Panic series?
With 2 of them, in fact.
It's happened with ours.
And the
with the architecting book, I know them all by colour, the yellow book.
Right. And so that's particular corporations that want to put their own branding on it as well, and circulate it amongst their staff.
There's 2 different drivers for that, and the one with R1, it's a major multinational aerospace company based in Britain,
near Blackpool.
And but basically they said, look, we want to get a consistent message across and we want to use your book to do it. And then that's when we said, well, you know, you could have a branded one. And they said, well, that enforces their message. This is the company. And the other one was one of the was Tim Rabbits, who was one of the authors on the Architecting book, and his company, because Tim's I don't know what the thing is, like a senior fellow or one of the positions he's got in the company. And they said, no, you know, there's 2 things there. One, they want to shout about one of their employees who's written this high profile book, but also they want to disseminate that within the organization. And again, get all the new joiners to look at it and these kinds of things. So again, different reasons why people will do it, but the branding's a really nice thing, isn't it? And it's, and for a big company, it's an extra couple of £100 or something to have the branding done on it. But and I think they've got to have a minimum of 100 printed or something like that. Yeah. But so we've done 2 of the Don't Panics like that, and that's a really lovely way to you know, to get involved.
And again, that underpins the idea of the more sort of specialized printing service that we can do through publishing as INCOSE UK. And it would be unlikely that we'd be able to offer that type of service if it was through a larger publishing house.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And as you say, with Think Engineer, I think we've done 4 or 5 different ones on there. Certainly the Dutch chapter have had at least 2 different bespoke runs done. We did the Year of Engineering 2019, I think that might have been again. It's the year before the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, 2019, I think, the Year of Engineering. So we did it, and that was sponsored by a whole load of the UCAB companies. So they all had their logo on it. So that was actually a really lovely edition because it had the logos of all these different UCAB companies on the back. So I think that was a nice bit of advertising. And I think we've done a couple of others as well. But but again, it's something, because we've got absolute control over the content, over the covers, you know, what we do with it. It really allows us to be very, very flexible and just offer a lot of sort of added value to our different potential stakeholders that, as you say, a traditional publisher just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So we've got all of those things about modularity, able to convert easily to achieve a bespoke effect, all of that sort of thing. Again, sounds like some systems principles being applied, doesn't it? So yeah,
well,
we're in a good place.
Interestingly enough, we got an informal Don't Panic guide to writing Don't Panic guides that Simon put together. That's like so it's got all it's almost like a template, but it's got all the things in on how to write one as well, isn't it? And that was because we were joking, we should do a Don't Panic on writing books, and then the next thing we know, Simon knocked up this that we now send out as part of the author pack.
Yes,
you know, these are the guidelines. This is what it should look like. This is what your cover's going to look like, and so on.
Yeah.
It's interesting, actually. Would an extension of that being making that guidance accessible to potential authors that haven't actually put their hand up and made the suggestion yet about a title?
I'm not sure if it's on the website or not yet, but certainly, there's no reason why we wouldn't. So as soon as somebody expresses an interest, we do that. But so I'm not sure if it is available on the website, but
no reason. No reason from my point of view why it shouldn't be.
But that would just help, Simon, with your concept of wanting to entice potential authors to come forwards.
Absolutely.
And if we're trying to encourage that sort of behaviour, and it's really for me about trying to show, we're, as a community, we are trying to enable people to participate fully in professional life in a shared sort of way.
Absolutely.
So that's a strong message. I'd be very keen to see supported beyond what you were suggesting about talking about it at a conference. So sounds like an easy win to me.
I think so.
I suppose the other sort of thing that one could do in terms of learning from experience, as the number of authors involved in the series grows, it may be worth polling them on what they felt were kind of things that could have been barriers, or things that really helped engage them, etc. Things around that sort of territory, because understanding what the things that the enablers and the blockers from an author's perspective that could fold into that guidance that you've just been talking about, and to help update it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, it's definitely worth doing. I think it'd be good. I think, John, you mentioned it at ASEC as well, if we've got all the authors there, because I don't think we've necessarily all sort of been in the room at the same time.
That's for safety reasons usually.
Well, I'm not saying anything.
But it would be nice to get everybody together. And like I say, I think all the authors are going to be at the ASEC anyway, so it just seems just over lunch. But bear in mind, at Leeds we've got that lovely big room as well where everybody has lunch, and it's a buffet style. So just people to walk around and have a chat with them, and chat to the series editor or author or whatever, and
absolutely,
maybe hopefully solicit some more interest in writing.
Indeed. Right. Well, I guess we're coming towards the end of the time that we planned for this. So keen again to see whether anyone's got further questions they'd like to chuck into the mix. If there are any thoughts brewing, then please either just speak up or put your hand up on the tool, and we'll make sure you get the chance to say. So I'm guessing by now we've done quite a few of these Meet the Author sessions. I don't know how many we're doing for sort of each book, but presumably we're going through a cycle of sessions of that sort for each book, probably on more than one occasion for each book as well.
Yeah, and as I say, these will all be made available as just small sort of added content for people to download from the website when they go up. But yeah, I mean, they're proven to be, it's a nice vehicle. It's nice. I think it's nice for people to see meet the authors as well, and just see that they're human in most cases.
Or mostly human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my point about learning from experience, I guess, applies also to these sessions then. If anyone that's been participating in this session today or in previous ones has any comments about the Meet the Authors sessions and the shape that we're using for them, either positive things about that bit's brilliant, keep it just like that, or suggestions about how to refine it, improve it, then we'd very much like to know, to be able to hone the approach to that. Seems to me that it's working well as an informal session. It's meant to be a kind of fireside chat type style to it, which feels like the experience I think people have mostly will have had today. But yeah, please, if people see they'd like a slightly different style of event or cater for a different way of engaging, then please tell us your thoughts.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think as well, just thinking about some of the stuff you were saying about encouraging people and the guidance, it's if we do get some more interest, it may be worth us as INCOSE organizing a sort of more a more sort of technical session with with me as series editor and maybe some of the other authors, where we can get people that have got submissions in and maybe give them a little bit more sort of concrete guidance on how to get started and stuff.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Si, because what we're going to do beginning of next calendar year is we're going to run a paper writing masterclass for people who are submitting to the ASEC, because we've had a number of authors said that they've had feedback from the reviewers that said, well, the content is actually excellent, but the way they've written it has let them down because they're not used to write. So we're going to actually put on a sort of free session for mainly aimed at sort of newer authors, but obviously anybody's welcome, which is this is what we look for in a paper, this is what the reviewers look for, that kind of thing. So I think that could be a natural similar sort of thing to offer out. Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. It's certainly something I'd be willing to do. So
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm seeing that the chat function has come alive because Heinz has used it and seems to give everything a ringing endorsement, saying it's brilliant. So that's nice to see.
That's gone on the back covers of all the stuff.
There you go. Brilliant. Okay, well, we are drawing to the end of the time, so I think at this point I would just like to thank John and Simon both for their time today in making themselves available, but also, of course, for their sterling work in writing this particular book in the first place, the first of the Don't Panics on model-based systems engineering, and also your work across this whole space, really, in upping the game on technical publications for INCOSE UK. As from a council perspective, putting my outreach director hat on, just like to thank you for all you've been doing on bolstering the technical aspects of the publication side of INCOSE UK activities. So thanks to both of you, and thanks to all of our participants today. Hope it's been interesting to you and worth your time listening in on this over an hour of your busy lives. So thanks for that.
And thanks very much, Chris, for hosting. It's been a pleasure as always. And remember, it's coming home.
Yes.
Well, something is.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.